I'm going, even when I'm doing, today why should I go and do law and the doctor? Money. Because I know I will go, consultancy will come in 2,000 very fast. Just talking to you, I have 2,000 bob. It is finishing our country. The days where we used to have people who will come out and just say, I need to see my country move, is gone. And therefore the next we need to ask ourselves, within these schools we are fighting for, do teachers even know that is where we used to get what we call nationalism, patriotism, where we can have integration, where we used to now integrate and look at each other as brothers and sisters? Do we still have that? It is something that we need to question as a country as we look at the education sector. Because for me, the transition, this transition that we have, even when you look at young people coming from going, when you look at them going to police, why are they having challenges? Because I've stayed for 4 years out there doing everything I can. Then again I join police. Now I go and perfect myself with a gun. So when I come out, if I want to be a gang, I'm a gang, a professional gang. But then the next thing we need to ask, and I think this is one thing Jubilee government is thinking of, and I know I'll bring a bill in the house, and you'll hear how parents will wake up. Why should we have NYS coming back? Yeah, the attitude. But I'm saying that NYS can help these young Form 4s to come in, let them join NYS, those who want, and from there let the government use this. Let us stop this drain brain thing. Use this who are now in NYS to join the army, join the police, join any institution of government. But at the same time, we have serious projects that are coming up within the Jubilee government. These young people can go do those projects when they're in NYS, let them start having some even little pocket money as they move on. But it will give them skills. It will also change this mindset that we have.
Right. Because of time, there's something very special that is going to happen today, the Form 1 selection. And it has been a debatable issue, especially looking at public schools and private schools. Parents who took their children to private schools feel, why is it that public students from public schools should be given a priority when it comes to Form 1 selection? What is your take on that?
My argument is that the people who should be petitioning are children. Because the point is that when I go to sit for exams in my village in Lugari, where I was born, I did my best to get 430 marks. I have no choice of being taken to a public school or private school. Because after all, by law, I'm defined as a minor. So I think that it's very, very wrong for the government to take its inefficiencies and blame people who are trying, to make a way of giving their children something sustainable, to punish these children. It is not right, because what message are you sending to a child who is 13-year-old? That you got 403 marks, but because you are taken to Makini, you are punished, you will go to Pumwani Secondary School. But because elsewhere, just because the resources were not put there or they were mismanaged, a child got 320 marks. The same inefficiencies are replicated for this child to go to Alliance. To me, that's how I look at it. So I think affirmative action is okay, but we have to critically look at the philosophy behind it. Because you cannot be punishing us for going to, for taking our children to the private institutions, for instance. It is not my mistake. If I have to take my, flashback a few years ago, Olympics Primary was the best school in Kibera. Yes, in Kibera, and all of us wanted to take there our children. How come Olympic doesn't perform that? Is a reality. And these are issues that we see. If you go into a class with 8 learners, what do I have to do? Still, I'll also be asked for tuition. Honestly, sincerely speaking, even what we are paying for in public schools, yet we don't get the same quality, I'd rather spend that money elsewhere and make sure that my child is capable of coming out. And it's not even just about the marks. I've also had to look at even the holistic approach with which the children are taught in some of these private schools, forget about the noise about drilling and all that, they are taught exams and such, it goes slightly out of the way they would be, I mean, slightly taught out of the convention. We'll have some French classes a little bit. Private schools started this issue of teaching computers a long time ago, before the Jubilee government thought of bringing laptops and saying they were already implementing it. So why should you punish these children? But all in all, we also have to be very, very sincere with the issue of affirmative action and look at it straight in the eye. But we have to look for a middle ground.
Middle ground. All right.
I thank God Jubilee has brought in the laptops. You hear private schools started earlier.
Yeah.
So thank God they are now coming to the public so that they can pick on. But the most important thing is this, Makazi, and this is something I have always said. When I take my child to a private school, am I just taking so that in the end I will get alliance, mango, or am I taking my child to gain knowledge? Because for the kid who is in a public school, I think for them is to gain knowledge. Because the next move, they never know, because of how the school system is. They are not those kids who say, oh, I'm automatic. For them, is can I get knowledge that when I'm finishing 8, I have knowledge of what I've gone through for 8 years. That little knowledge can help me move on to the next level. That's why when they come to high school, trust me, you'll be very surprised how they perform. First term, you'll do it. Second term, you'll know that is a bright kid, because they will surpass those who are in private school and they do better. And I think what the government should do is now look at those who came from private school, those who came from public school. As we transit to Form 1, when we get to Form 3, where are they? We should follow so that we know how are we gaining. Is it indeed important to ensure a kid from a public school should be moved? And do they perform when now they get the best environment? I think it's something we need to do research on it. And even not just now. I think we can do the research because we already have those who came in last year. Yeah, so we need to know where are they within the system. If they are doing better, then there's something we are losing somewhere. But the most important thing, and I want to tell Kaimeni, I want to tell my friend Coletta, you've started that. Ensure a child who was in a public school, who has 250 and above, let them go to a school, a good school. These are kids who can perform very, very excellent when given a good environment.
There was something that you mentioned about punishment, because I doubted
it's not a punishment.
I doubted that many parents who take their children to private schools are only looking at
ICP or alliance.
Many are looking at
Let me tell you why I've said this. Because we've been in that sector also. You find that you have your kid from standard 1, 2, 3, 4, then you realize, oh, 5, 6, you put it in boarding school. Then you want a nice school. But you remember when Mutula the late decided to change. Now what parents used to do, just at standard 7, you remove and take it to a local school in the rural to do 8 there. That's what parents were doing. So it is something we know. I mean, we can put it right, and you can go to schools and see how many have come in just from standard 7. Where are they coming from? You'll be very surprised. Why? So that you can get a good selection of a school. At the same time, I know as parents, some of them are very busy, so you'll take them to boarding schools. But we used to have public boarding schools, the St. Peter's in Mumiasi, the Kericho, there were many. And they're still there, and they perform. But what we need to ask ourselves, it's not a punishment. If you feel you have a right to take your child to a private school, that is your right, because you have the money, you want them to gain more than just what the curriculum brings in. But then at the same time, you cannot now come and fight and say, we want a system where now the government has put in money, now you want it back, isn't it? First you used private, now you want to use government. Who resources are you using at that time? Isn't that poor person who you think the child is very poor, but he works every day as a watchman and he's taxed? Yeah. Let us be also with that.
I think I have to differ a bit with Mheshimiwa. That the people in the private sector are financing the two aspects. You're financing the private sector.
I've said what?
And you're also financing the public sector. And I also want to give this classical example. I did my master's in a public university. After clearing the coursework in June 2011, by the time I was getting my transcript, I did not have an idea of what I had scored in a public university that teaches information systems. My wife, who attends a private university, immediately after 1 month after they sit for the exams, they have their results. Yet what we see on the outside is that these private universities are not offering quality. I think Mheshimiwa, is a little bit dangerous for us to be on the national TV.
Let me say this. I am not saying
tell people that we demonize the private sector in the element of I mean, people who take their children is because they have money. I can give you a classical example. You go, for instance, to the informal settlements. There are no schools there, Mutegi. People have to rely on those non-formal schools. But now when it comes to the selection of Form 1, those people are taken to be like they are coming from private schools. You look at the situations in Kibera, you look at the situations in Madare. Surely, will you consider such a child to be coming from where the government has not even provided schools? Secondly, these people have gone out of their way. The private sector has set a pace, even in terms of management of the teachers, management of the available resources. Some of these people learn under horrible circumstances. I don't think that is right for us to demonize
horrible
the entire,
circumstances.
Yes.
That means they need a chance now to get to a better environment. And I didn't demonize the private sector. I just said, if I'm a parent, and indeed I've taken my child to a private school, which is a privilege to my child, isn't it? And an opportunity from God, because He has given me that opportunity to do that. I should not now come and say I'm the only one who has a right. I think both of these, and that's where we get it so wrong. What we should be talking is, how do we ensure the education system is equal to children, so that we are able, and I think that is one thing as government we must pick on, that we must get to a point as we move on now, and especially within the Jubilee government.
How is it going to be
try?
How is it going to be equal?
Bring in the teachers. Bring in teachers. Bring in quality.
The so-called private schools, these academies, are not for rich people.
Yes, exactly.
They are not for rich people.
We are not saying they are for rich people. We are saying, if you are able, and let us not lie here, Mutegi, that they are not for rich, they are not for poor, so they are for middle. Fine. If they are for middle, we are saying, in the end, when we finish exams, can we bring all Kenyans as children together and say, now you are moving on to Form 1, but you are now together. We don't know, you came from private, yes, you came from public, yes, but now this is Form 1. We are all Kenyans. We came from a school, we did an exam that was 1, and therefore we are just 1. But the moment you come in and you cut in a system and you say, this is coming from private,